What's one way we can improve this genre of map? Let's speed it up. Okay, not that kind of speed. However, we'll get into that later. Now, there's quite a few speed realistics from different creators and in different formats. But in this video, we'll be focusing on Finest 2v2. I'll probably do another video comparing the different maps, but for now, most of what I say in this video will apply to all of them. Speed Realistics 2v2 takes what we know from the usual Realistics format and aims to cut out all of the downtime in between matches, getting eliminations, and queuing up. It's designed this way to allow players to quickly warm up or to have a more streamlined play session if they're short on time. The gameplay loop goes as follows. Players load into the lobby and wait for the remaining players to join. Once everyone's in, players pick their teams, vote for their preferred loadouts, and then the match begins immediately. Players will then play rounds until the first team to reach 12 points wins the game. While playing these rounds, there's over 25 different points of interest that the match can occur on. These are supposed to mimic what it's like fighting on the actual Battle Royale map, hence where the realistic element comes from. On the other hand, there's another component of that realistic realism that's lacking. Tell me, how often do you have a
gold hammer shotgun
or a
200 bomb shotgun
in each fight that you go into, on top of max mats and shields? Now obviously, this is really nice from a player gameplay's perspective. This allows players to play with exactly what they want, or to at least dictate what they would want, and puts everyone on an equal footing at the beginning of each fight, with shields and mats. However, this is nowhere near realistic to mid-game or early game fights. You're more likely going to have a gray hammer and 50 mats. Now, there are options to play with a more realistic loadout, and I feel like this speaks more to what players would want to play with if these are the ones that are being voted on so often. So I'm not going to fault the map creator for that. Even thinking about myself, I would love to play with max mats and whatever shotgun than to actually have early game loot, even if that's an important skill to have. Another thing to note is that you might run into players that disconnect or just leave. Again, not something the map creator can really control, but I thought I should mention it since it does happen often. We also have a rank system that's becoming more common in a lot of maps. I can't really tell how the points are calculated since it only updates once every few rounds, but you do get to see other players' ranks during the game. This lets you know that there's no skill-based matchmaking either, which has its pros and cons. You'll run into complete beginners who look like they just installed the game, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I commend these players for trying to improve at the game with a more practice-oriented map like this. However, it might be a little too hard for some players. If you do run into these players, it honestly might be best to immediately leave, or to at least give them room and space to try and make plays, make mistakes, and actually do something in the round, instead of just edit coursing them. That's not good practice for either player. And when you do get into games with zero ping, competitive, superhero, Reddit players, try to stay in the mindset that these are the types of matchups that really lead to effective practice and growth. If you're winning 100% of the rounds, you're not improving. This map is already polished, so there's only a couple of additions I'd like to see. It would be nice if there were more varied loadouts. Sometimes you just end up with a gun that has a scope, or no shotgun at all. Obviously, this wouldn't be as fun to play with, but it would really help lean into that realistic element more. There's custom and community loadouts, but the four main options we have here are pretty similar in vanilla. The matchmaking can take really long, depending on how many players are currently playing, or how many people you queue in with. I seriously don't understand why you can just load into a map with nobody as a solo, when there's probably tons of other games needing one player. This is more of an issue on Epic. However, as a map creator, you could have something the players can do while they're waiting for more players. Imagine some 1v1 ramps, or even just simple parkour jumps. Instead, we have this one singular beach ball that has negative physics, and I end up tabbing out anyway. Friends aren't necessarily required here, although they can make team gameplay more synergistic, and you don't have to worry about an uncooperative or non-existent teammate. But I personally have no issue playing these as a solo. Both can provide a great experience. XP is given on eliminations, sometimes. I really don't understand the limits in which creative maps are allowed to grant XP. So if this is your first time playing creative for the day, you can expect the usual amount of XP, though if you're not winning a lot of rounds, then that can be slowed down. One of the best creative maps in terms of sheer amount of practice you can fit within a time frame. Just comparing 20 minutes, that's one full Battle Royale game, where you're maybe getting into 5 to 7 fights, versus upwards of 20 here, assuming each round lasts about a minute. You don't have to worry about farming or looting up, just high-paced fighting scenarios that really keeps the momentum going between rounds. The presentation of this map is excellent. You can tell that the map creator is highly experienced, Everything is clean, nicely built, does a fantastic job of mimicking the current chapter POIs. But because of that, we don't get too creative with a lot of set pieces here. Things are more grounded in reality, and really stays true to something Epic themselves would have created. All of the map mechanics work, and it's fun to fight in various locations on the map, and to think about how they compare to their in-game counterparts. Overall, I'm going to recommend you play this map, along with the other various speed realistic maps there are, so long as you're looking for a competitive, practice-oriented experience that's high-paced and keeps the action going between rounds. There's no extra fluff here, or any overpowered Timmy items, just the simple classic Fortnite build battles that a lot of players still prefer. If you are, however, a truly super casual player, or completely uninterested in building, you might want to stay away from this one, which leads me to 2 other maps I may cover in the future. All links and map codes will be in the description. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, consider subscribing, and thanks for stopping by.